All right, welcome to Computational Combat. I'm Dylan Grayson, joined by the man who needs no introduction, Connor Potter, and the brains of the operation, Johnny Compliment. How do you feel about that as your intro? You like that?
I feel like you gave me an introduction that defeats the point.
I don't know what you're talking about. So, today we are looking at...
I'm new to this. I feel like if anybody needs an introduction, it's me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
One episode under my belt.
Look, we're just getting started. It's not like a lot of people are listening yet anyway. We'll just pretend we've always been here.
In your first episode, I think you made more predictions than I was able to make in 3 due to the amount of people you know.
I'll be the Danny DeVito to your Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I come on a few episodes and it just skyrockets. All right,
so we are looking at UFC 256, the most bottom-heavy pay-per-view.
55.
Oh my God, I'm way off. This is 255?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, it shows you how I'm doing. A little frazzled, crazy week. I have the fights right, though. UFC 255, we're looking at both flyweight title fights. Davison Figueiredo defending his flyweight championship against Alex Perez, and then Valentina Shevchenko defending her flyweight title against Jennifer Maia in one of the most bottom-heavy pay-per-view cards I can remember. Not a lot of name value in the top two, but I like a lot of the fights here.
Dylan, is calling this card bottom-heavy a Shevchenko joke?
It's not, but it could be. All right, so before we get into the predictions for this week, Johnny, how did we do last week?
Yeah, so last week we profited 23% on our bets. So if you followed the percentage breakdowns, you would have yielded 23% profit on your bet.
All right, awesome. So last week we made predictions on 8 different fights and 3 of them got canceled. So it's worth noting that it is distinctly possible that will happen again. I know no one wants to talk about COVID anymore. It's exhausting, but as it gets bad again, it's bad. As it continues to get worse, the reality is that fights are going to get canceled because of it. On top of all the actual serious stuff that it causes, it will affect this as well.
I feel like the cards that they've been doing in Las Vegas have had terrible luck, but everything they've been doing on Fight Island and Abu Dhabi has been like perfectly smooth.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's just like aggressive confirmation bias, but I feel like the fact they've been doing like the 2-week quarantines with an entire island for themselves has been really working out. I don't know why they just don't go back to it again.
I think it's just easier to get fighters from the US to Vegas. Yeah, it seems like it's not exactly perfect. I know like on the embedded, Valentina and her sister are just training in their usual gym with like the same amount of people as normal. So like knock on wood, but like that's concerning, but we'll see what happens. And
she trains out of Texas?
No, she's in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I think she trained out of Texas.
Maybe she did at one point. I don't know. Kyrgyzstan, Peru, Las Vegas, Texas. What's the difference, right? It's all the same. Okay, so bottom to top, starting with the early prelims. At welterweight, Louis Kosi versus Sasha Palatnikov. So I believe both of these guys are making their UFC debuts. Kosi coming off of the win on the Contender Series. I don't know too much about them, but looking at their records, I feel that Kosi has had more difficult challenges. So just based on strength of schedule alone, I'm going to pick Kosi because I don't know too much. Connor?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, they're both extremely new, they're both extremely young, they're both extremely fresh. Like you said, Kosi looks like he's fought the better people, but I don't know if the people that he's fought have better records because they fought good people or because they fought cans. I probably wouldn't want to make a prediction on this, but if I did, I'd probably go with the guy with Kosi, just for at least ostensibly having fought people with more experience, which at the end of the day on the regional circuit is what matters.
Right. And Johnny, no prediction here from the algo, right?
No, so I'm just going to go, because I know neither of them either, I'm going to go with a push.
Okay. All right. Moving on, middleweight, Kyle Daukaus versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Personally, for this one, I like Dustin Stoltzfus for 2 reasons. One, Connor and I went to college in Lancaster, and this is a good old Amish boy. He doesn't live his life in the Amish way, as far as I know, but the name Stoltzfus being from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he's clearly got Amish heritage.
He also is from Lancaster.
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with the fight. But what does have something to do with the fight is that he seems to have pretty impressive grappling, plenty of submission wins, and his win on the Contender Series was a slam that broke his opponent's arm, which was absolutely nasty to watch live. But I think he's a stud. I think he's one to look for. Connor?
Yeah, only other thing to mention, I probably would say that Dacos has fought better competition because he fought like Brendan Allen, who is the best name on either of their resumes. That being said, he lost to Brendan Allen. There's not really much to be taken from someone who loses a fight, even if it's against better competition. Like you said, they're both relatively new. I don't really put a lot of stock in the Contender Series wins just because oftentimes it's really young, inexperienced fighters going up against each other for a paycheck from the UFC. But how do you pronounce his last name?
Stoltzfus.
Stoltzfus is from Lancaster, so I'll pick him, man.
Fair enough.
This is not the hard-hitting analysis that I normally have, but it's the bottom of the card, so fuck it, who cares?
Yeah, we'll get there later on. Johnny, anything?
No prediction here. I wish we got the Dana White Contender Series data, but as of now we don't, so cannot make a prediction.
Fair enough. Welterweight. Now we've actually got someone who has a previous UFC fight on his record. Alan Jouban versus Jared Gooden. So Alan Jouban isn't exactly consistent, but looking at Jared Gooden, who I know very little about, I took a look at his record, and 2 fights ago, he beat a guy whose record was 3-13. So I feel like his record might be a little bit padded, and because of that, I feel like he's probably not up to snuff. We might find out that I'm completely wrong, but I'm going with Alan Jouban, more proven fighter.
Yeah. So Alan Jouban, great Muay Thai. The dude has always had really good leg kicks. I distinctly remember the Mike Perry fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was the first one to take the O off of Mike. I mean, not the first one. The one who took the O off of Mike Perry, and he just did it by just staying on the back foot and chopping his legs down the entire time. I think this is his first fight since UFC 236 in April of 2019. But so maybe there's something to the long layoff. He was always a little bit chinny as a fighter. He couldn't really take punches that well. But I generally think of Alan Jouban as like a top 20 to top 15 style fighter. He's a very good gatekeeper to the rankings. And especially for an up-and-coming prospect who doesn't have that much competition experience, like high-quality competition experience, I think that's like a perfect fight for Jouban to make his return. So yeah, I'm picking Jouban. That being said, the only other thing besides the long layoff is that I think he's pretty old, actually. Yeah, he's 38 now, which is crazy because he doesn't look it at all.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess that's what you get for being like, what is he, a Gucci model or something? Calvin Klein?
Some sort of male model.
Yeah.
He's pretty to get punched in the face for a living, but, he does it anyway.
Yeah, I'd still take Jouban. There's a few caveats, but he's good. He's super legit.
Johnny, no call here?
Yeah, no call here. No call here.
All right, so now we're moving on to some fights that are actually going to have some predictions from the algorithm. We've got fighters that have both fought in the UFC. Welterweight fight between Nicholas Dalby and Daniel Rodriguez. Personally here, I'm liking Daniel Rodriguez, 3-0 in the UFC. 2 of those were finishes. He's been looking really good lately. Dalby has some impressive wins, but also some losses that are questionable. When I was writing my notes, I had written down that he had just lost to Jesse Ronson. And then just yesterday it was overturned to a no contest because Ronson popped for some sort of steroid or something.
Yep.
I don't think Ronson has much name value to him. I might be underestimating Ronson, and obviously he was on the juice. But to me, I think that Daniel Rodriguez has looked great lately, and I'm picking Rodriguez here. Connor?
Yeah, I agree. I think so. Nicholas Dalby is one of the very few fighters who had fought in the UFC, got cut, and then fought his way back. I would highly recommend anybody to look up his fight with Ross Houston in Cage Warriors, which was a fight that was so bloody that neither could stand, and they kept slipping on the blood on the mat. And the ref called it a no contest due to the overwhelming amount of blood that they were both spilling out. It's awesome. It's a shame that Ross Houston didn't also get signed to the UFC after that. But Nicholas Dalby, he's a super nice dude. His nickname's awesome. I think it's like Locomotivo or something like that, which is probably the wrong pronunciation for a name that's not in English for locomotive. But it's cool.
Sure, he's Danish. That sounded distinctly Spanish to me.
Yeah, I don't fucking speak Danish, okay? Sue me. If it's not Spanish, Hebrew, or English, I'm fucked. Whatever. But Dalby's always been a pretty well-rounded fighter. He's always been someone who can rally with good fundamental striking. That being said, he's 36. He's kind of slowed down a lot recently. I don't remember being too impressed by his win over Alex Oliveira. Whereas Daniel Rodriguez is someone who beat a guy that I'm really still high on, who we'll be talking about later in the card, Tim Means, the Dirty Bird. And he's had 2 wins since then. He knocked out his most recent opponent. I think momentum's kind of on the side of Daniel Rodriguez, as much as I would love to see Dalby get a win here.
All right, Johnny, what you
Yes. So both of you agree with the algorithm, it seems, on this one. It's got Daniel Rodriguez as a 62% chance of winning this fight. And actually, due to the Vegas lines, it sees value in Dalby. So it'll be putting on 69 cents to your $100 or 0.69% of your fund on Nicholas Dalby as per the lines that Vegas held. So that's one of your examples of where the model predicts something, sees value on the books, and makes a long-term investment.
Right. So you're throwing a very small bet out in case Dalby wins because it thinks that Dalby has a better chance than the actual betting odds have. But it itself thinks Rodriguez is probably winning.
Yeah, 62% of the time, yes.
Yeah, that's not nothing, but it is a relatively small margin. All right, moving on. Flyweight. Finally, we're talking about Shevchenko. Oh, it's the worst Shevchenko sister. My bad. Antonina Shevchenko versus Ariane Lipski. Antonina Shevchenko is okay-ish. She's fine. Her sister is unbelievable, and she's there.
You just stopped your analysis there. She's okay.
Right, but neither Shevchenko or Lipski has really beaten anyone of significant name value. Lipski is coming off of that really cool win by Nibar, but I have a feeling Antonina's going to pull this out. This is a tough call in my book. I don't really know.
Yeah, Lipski is someone who came into the UFC with a lot of hype behind her, and then went on. She lost, 2 straight to both JoJo Calderwood, Molly McCann. She's had 2 wins since then, so credit to her. Whereas Shevchenko came off the coattails of her sister, hasn't really lived up to the hype. It would be really funny to watch them fight each other for the belt at some point. I don't know if that would ever happen.
It wouldn't. It's not happening.
Well, okay, in the hypothetical where Antonina wins enough fights.
Okay, I don't think they'd be against it. I just think it's never going to get there.
Oh, definitely not. The thing is, I think a lot of, if I remember correctly, I haven't watched a lot of Lipski's fights just because once the hype kind of wore off, I was like, well, maybe this isn't someone who I want to be like paying too close attention to. But if I remember correctly, a lot of where she's supposed to have strength is in the clinch, and using a lot of clinch breaks to throw elbows, knees, things like that. Say what you will about Antonina Shevchenko being resoundingly mediocre, but she's good in the clinch. Both Shevchenko sisters are extremely good at controlling the clinch. Antonina is, I think, taller by at least 2 inches. She's pretty tall and lanky for the division. She's 2 inches taller. I think she can at least get a reasonable amount of leverage to control the clinch. I bet on Antonina in that.
All right.
Yeah, so, and this is going to be a common theme in this card, I think, but Shevchenko was also given the win here with a 53% chance, so it sees it as close as Dylan does. And by the common theme, I'm talking about the fact that when placing its bet, it sees value in a Lipski bet due to the Vegas odds. So to your $100, it's putting 28 cents or 0.28% of your fund on Lipski, the 46% underdog predicted by the model.
Yeah, 53% confidence is not much more than a coin toss. So I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the people that Antonina has fought and lost to are Caitlin Chukagian and Roxanne Modafferi. I don't really think Modafferi's that great, but they're both like the top of the division. They're more amongst a division of fighters who are very okay. They're a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Lipski's losing to people like Molly McCann and Joanne Calderwood, who are kind of at the lower end of that division. Like, it makes sense why this is so close. It does not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, middleweight bout, Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. Obviously, Joaquin Buckley coming off of the knockout of the year with that crazy spinning back kick knockout where I think he threw a teep with his left, and his kick got caught. And while his opponent was still holding his left leg, he jumped and threw a spinning back kick that absolutely starched his opponent. It was beautiful, but I don't think he's able to recreate that. I think that was, I don't want to call it a fluke because obviously he saw the opportunity and went for it, but this isn't something that I feel like he's going to continue doing, and he's got a very tough task. Jordan Wright is 11-0 with 11 finishes. If you look back, he's really 11-1. He got knocked out on the Contender Series once, but that was overturned for weed. So
God forbid he smoked weed.
I know. God forbid that the person who knocked him out happened to smoke weed.
Listen,
but regardless,
there's 3 things that change a fight: cheating, steroids, and jazz cigarettes. We just can't have them.
right? Absolutely, you just can't allow it. Thinking about the most disgusting cheaters in the sport, you have Greg Hardy huffing an inhaler literally in the middle of a bout. And then you've also got smoked a doobie within 12 hours of the fight. Whatever. It is what it is. Point is, at the very least, Jordan Wright is 11-1 with 11 finishes. Buckley had a great knockout, but I don't feel like that doesn't really say much about him as an overall well-rounded fighter. He also got knocked out by Kevin Holland just before getting his knockout win. I think Jordan Wright takes it here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's 2 super new prospects. One of them gets a crazy KO, and everybody assumes that the world is like, the world is their oyster. It's the same thing that happened with Johnny Walker, where he has these wild and insane KOs, and everybody's like, John Jones is afraid of that guy. And then you watch him get knocked out by fucking Corey Anderson. I don't really know what to make of it. Like, I don't think that Jordan Wright's wins are over anybody who's particularly impressive. Like, just going down his record, I see people who are 0-21, 0-10.
Oh, jeez.
His last 2 wins are people who are 11-4 and 16-10. Like, that's not the world's best competition, probably, for a UFC caliber fighter, whatever UFC caliber means nowadays. That being said, like, the two people that have most recently beaten Buckley are Kevin Holland, who there's no shame in losing to, and Logan Storley, who is an excellent credentialed wrestler. I don't think that he's going to recreate the magic of his last KO, but if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Buckley. Just he's at least fought better competition more recently.
That's fair. Johnny?
Yes, so Dylan, the model does not agree with you. It agrees with Connor, and it's saying Joaquin Buckley is an 83.96% favorite. And let me tell you something, Vegas also has Buckley as an overwhelming favorite as well, because with, basically an 84% favorite in our model, you'd expect it to be throwing an absurd amount, but it's not due to the amount of favorability he has in Vegas's lines too. So Buckley is getting $1.39 to your $100 or 1.39% of your fund.
Okay.
I feel like 84% is real high to be on a guy like this, especially just coming off of a knockout loss to Kevin Holland as well, or not coming off of, but having recently been knocked out. Out of curiosity, what are the Vegas odds?
When I submitted this, which was, I believe 2 days ago, the Vegas odds had Jordan Wright as a plus 215, and I could re-look up Buckley because I'm reverse calculating them off of decimal odds. So I could tell you right now.
It looks like he might be a minus 270 favorite.
Yeah.
Which definitely seems pretty high.
Yeah. I could see that being overvalued for him. But, yeah, that's an interesting one. I can't believe I missed that Wright has a win over somebody who's 0-21 at the time of their fight. That's quite concerning. All right.
Gotta make it up, right?
Yeah, Buckley, just to clear it up, when the bet was placed, was a minus 300 favorite.
Wow. Okay. I think that is overhyped.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, so now on to flyweight for the last of the prelims. So we've got the flyweight titles in both the men's and women's division on the line in the main event and co-main event. Here we've got what is probably a number one contenders fight for the flyweight division. The first-ranked flyweight, Brandon Moreno, versus the sixth-ranked flyweight, Brandon Royval. battle of the Brandons. Which Brandon will reign supreme? Personally, I've got it going for Royval. He showed up in the UFC and has shown some really nasty grappling. I didn't expect him to beat Tim Elliott, and then he beat Tim Elliott. And then I forget who he fought last, but he did it again. Who was it?
Kai Kara France.
Right, yeah. Kai Kara France is somebody that I've been relatively hyped on as well, and Royval also beat him. I think I'm going for Brandon Royval here. Maybe it's a hype train that doesn't deserve it, but I'm going for him.
So I think we should all agree that the loser has to change their name from Brandon to Brendan. But outside of that, first off, from this point on, almost all of the fights are just like so good. This is where the card starts to really take off. This is also, not only is it a number one contenders fight, but it's a contender for the number one worst nickname in the flyweight division between the Assassin Baby and Raw Dog, which are terrible nicknames. That being said, all the bullshit aside,
you misspoke. Those are excellent nicknames. I thought you said terrible. Yeah.
That being said, like you said, Brandon Royval has seriously surprised me. I rate Tim Elliott really highly, and he's fucking beat Tim Elliott. And then he guillotined Kai Kara France, who I also rate pretty reasonably high in the division. All that being said, I think I'm going to take Moreno, and the reason why is that Moreno really should be fighting for the belt right now. I don't think that it should be Alex Perez. Like, Moreno has a win over Kai Kara France himself, and he has a win over Jussier Formiga, who is the only person with a win over the current champion. The UFC also just released Formiga, which is fucking stupid. But I think he's got real nice striking. He's got very solid grappling. It's not the most offensive, but defensively, he's very good at getting himself out of bad positions. I think the thing for Royval is that he's extremely fast and he's very, very tricky with some of the stuff that he throws. But I think Moreno's just a little bit better. He's proven himself against a little bit better competition. And I have less questions about his skill than I do about Royval's. Yeah. But I would not be surprised at Royval winning this and just continuing to surprise me.
Just to jump in back on one thing you said, Perez, who did get bumped up to the main event here, also has a win over Jussier Formiga. And it does suck that Formiga was cut, but I think he was on a 3 or 4 fight skid, actually.
Yeah, so why is Cody Garbrandt in the UFC again?
Marketable.
Hey, watch out. Cody Garbrandt's one of my favorite fighters.
Oh, yeah, you and I don't agree about that.
Yeah, hates Cody Garbrandt. But that is a discussion for another day. It would have been a discussion for today. He was supposed to be in the main event against Figueiredo, but he pulled out.
Such a good fight.
Oh, that would have been real fun. All right, Johnny, what are we looking at for Battle of the Brandons?
I just want to say that the true Raw Dog is Darren Till. But for the Battle of the Brandons, it's got Moreno as a 62% favorite. However, the lines with Vegas on both sides just didn't propose any value. So it is not placing a bet on that fight.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So now moving on to the main card. And I personally like this, but Connor may take back what he just said about every fight from here on out being good.
This is my one caveat.
Right. I kind of like this. Light heavyweight, we've got Shogun Rua versus the 15th ranked light heavyweight, Paul Bear Jew Craig. As we sit here, 3 Jewish men talking about a man named Bear Jew who was not Jewish. He said that he would explain it when he is retired. The only explanation that I will accept is that he once beat the crap out of a neo-Nazi, because otherwise, weird choice for a name. But you know what? Whatever.
Bad nickname for a guy who's not Jewish.
Right. Maybe there is some further context that explains it. But regardless,
I put Bear Jew in the same category of nicknames as Eric Yaboy Anders, where the only logical explanation for why they have that nickname is so that they can hear Bruce Buffer say it and cringe while doing so. Only explanation.
I think Bear Jew is the best nickname in the UFC. I've always loved it, and Paul Craig's been like one of my favorite fighters since I heard it.
If he was Jewish, it would be like top tier.
I think it's better. I think it's 10 times better that he's not Jewish, because if he was Jewish, it would make sense a little bit. But the fact that he's not just makes it 10 million times better.
Well, regardless of ironic or unironic love of his nickname, these guys actually fought once before and went to a draw. Shogun Craig is definitely on the tail end of his career, and
Shogun Craig.
Oh God, my brain is right. Shogun Rua. is on the tail end of his career. And I don't want to say that Paul Craig is up and coming because he's been in the UFC for a while now. And he has a really good penchant for losing an entire fight until he randomly snags a triangle choke.
Let's see, for 4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. Connor, were you there with me when he fought Kennedy and Chukwu?
I was.
Yeah, I forget which cards these fights happened on.
That was Atlantic City, I think.
Yeah, God. Paul Craig has some pretty good grappling. I feel like Shogun is shot. I feel like Shogun's probably going to do fairly well and then get caught in a triangle. I mean, I don't know how much analysis there is between a guy who might be bad because he's old and a guy who's bad but good somehow, but just weird. This is a tough one to call, but Paul Craig.
So, Dylan, I think you need to throw a little bit of respect onto Shogun Hua's name, because the man has only one loss in the last 5 years, and it was to Anthony Smith, who challenged for the title. Shogun title train soon.
But he drew against Craig in the middle of that. Like, the last time they fought, these guys were dead even, according to the judges.
Yeah, I remember that fight being pretty messy. All that being said, I really wish this fight wasn't happening. It's one of the worst nicknames in the UFC against one of the best, because Shogun's just a fucking cool nickname. His younger brother's nickname is Ninja. It's awesome.
Is he part Japanese, or are we dealing with a double-sided battle here, where you got two culturally appropriated nicknames?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
But either way, like you said, Shogun is definitely pretty shot. He's still got the consistency of someone who can throw hard counter punches. He doesn't really seem to have quite the gas tank for it anymore, whereas Paul Craig throws a lot of really awful spinning shit, but has excellent jiu-jitsu. So if you go to the ground with him, he will find a way to tap you out. I don't really feel comfortable picking either person because Shogun is just too old at this point, but also Paul Craig is way too inconsistent. Gun to my head, I guess I'll take Paul Craig just because, like, he's younger. I'm usually going to pick the younger person in a rematch, I think. Statistically, it's just been borne out that way. But it wouldn't really surprise me to see Shogun just grind his way through to a decision. And also, honestly, if there's going to be either person finishing it, it's probably going to be Paul Craig finishing him. After all, as much as Shogun does have a win over one of Dylan's favorite teammates in Gian Vellante, he still has just not shown a lot of quality recently.
Yeah, just to jump back in here with the deep dive investigative journalism that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. I looked it up. Shogun is of Italian and Portuguese descent, obviously from Brazil. So not Japanese at all. We have a battle of the culturally appropriated nicknames here. Also, did you know Shogun has a little brother as well?
Yeah, I just said that. His younger brother nicknamed Ninja Hua.
No, his older brother is named Ninja Hua. His younger brother is named Shaolin. These are all nicknames.
Kind of breaking the theme there, but...
Right. But regardless. All right. Johnny, what we got?
So I actually just want to interject. I think Paul Craig's name is, I feel, represented. Besides the fact that an Israeli fighter just got signed from the Dana White Contender Series, I feel like Paul Craig has represented us Jews very well. But anyway, the algorithm would agree with both of you. It has Craig as a 65% favorite. But again, I said this would be a common theme. Vegas shows no value on either pick, so it will not be placing a bet on this fight.
Yeah, I can see it.
Paul Craig is about as representative of Jews with his nickname as Thiago Santos is for having the Star of David on his shoulder.
Right.
Wait, could you explain that to me? Because I've been confused over that for the longest time. Why does he have that?
Sometimes.
Okay, he has a fucking sledgehammer tattooed on his chest. I'm not gonna ask him why he has Star of David on his.
Good point. I thought maybe he was Jewish somehow. I didn't know.
No, I don't think so. I think it's the same thing as who is it? Jared Cannonier. At one point, he wore a yarmulke in the fucking talit, and someone asked him about it, and he was like, "No, I'm not Jewish. These are things that mean a lot to me, but I'm not Jewish in any way. Healing crystals. I don't know. I don't get it."
Yeah, it might just be that he's Christian and there is some connection there, but it is weird to see it. But who knows?
Love to see it.
Who the hell knows? Regardless. Yeah, this fight's a weird one, a very, very weird one. Yeah, moving on. So, women's flyweight, we've got the number 2 ranked contender, Caitlin Chikagian, against the number 4 ranked contender, Cynthia Calvillo. Caitlin Chikagian coming off of a loss to the champion Valentina Shevchenko, followed by a win against Antonina Shevchenko. So,
No, I think it's the other way around, wasn't it?
definitely not. She got the match against Antonina after losing to Valentina, because I don't know, this is some weird WWE revenge storyline or something. But Chukagian's never getting back to the title shot if she wins, because she got dominated. And the sad thing is,
Violently put out the
going to win, and we're not going to have a contender at women's flyweight. So I just feel that, Caitlin Chukagian's grappling is pretty good. Shevchenko dominated her on the ground, but Shevchenko is Valentina fucking Shevchenko. There's levels to this game. Caitlin Chukagian is a brown belt under Renzo Gracie. She's legit. Calvillo's best thing is her grappling, but I think that the distance is going to work in Chukagian's favor when they're on the feet. I know, Connor, you like to talk about Chukagian kind of kicking at the air, a little windmill kickboxing. But I do feel like she's probably going to edge out her decision here. What do you think?
So I think this is just a card full of people with unique nicknames, where we have Caitlin Chukagian, also known as Blonde Fighter. I just, the only thing this card is missing is that one dude in the UFC whose nickname is Venezuelan Fighter. Thankfully from Venezuela, but in terms of this fight, so Calvillo, she's not a great wrestler, but when she gets things on the ground, she's very, very aggressive. I don't remember who, I think it was against Amanda Cooper in her second UFC fight, where she caught a takedown and then just did some fucking cool shit to flip over to the back. If I remember correctly, my very in-depth jiu-jitsu knowledge coming out here. But that being said, her striking has somehow kind of regressed recently. It's not very, for someone who's such a good grappling game, you'd figure they would either employ a much more aggressive striking game or a much more aggressive wrestling game. I've never really felt like Caitlin Chukagian or Cynthia Calvillo has either of those. And like Dylan said, as much as Caitlin Chukagian has a leaf blower kickboxing style, and just very volume heavy, she still can put in good work. She still can dish out enough to get a win. So yeah, I'd probably take Chukagian here. I kept mixing up their names. Wow. But yeah, Chukagian.
All right, Johnny.
So you guys, I think people are going to think you guys looked at the model beforehand, but yeah, it agrees with you guys. It has Chukagian as a 59%, essentially 60% chance of winning. And Vegas sees Chukagian as the underdog. So we got some value there with a $1.39 bet to your $100 or 1.39% of your fund. I also really like this play because not only did I think Chukagian was going to win anyway, we're getting a good amount of value on it. So that's a great one right there.
All right, nice. Yeah. I'm not sure if anyone watching this is going to notice, but my eyes went wide for a second because I panicked and thought that I hadn't been recording. We're good. We are recording. We are good. All right. Now, the last non-title fight of the night, welterweight, Mike Perry versus Tim Means. We've got a whole lot of aggressive tattoos and 2 aggressive men, one inside the cage and one inside and outside of the cage. Anyway, Mike Perry, obviously, I don't even know how to say it without making it a joke.
He's from
Mike Perry's cornermen for this fight are his 19-year-old pregnant girlfriend and a random friend of his who has no martial arts experience.
Wait, she's pregnant now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But did he not win his last fight where he had only his girlfriend as a cornerman? I don't know.
It was versus Hickey Gall.
Right. He's insane. He's not in a, oh, this dude's insane as in he's a great fighter. No, this dude's insane. This dude's got problems, but he's also hyper aggressive and very good. Not very good. Very dangerous in the octagon. And he's facing Tim Means, another dude who is super, super dangerous at times. I feel like Mike Perry is probably going to take this. This is a tough one. I have in my notes, Mike Perry, quote, stupid but dangerous. which I think kind of encapsulates it all, whereas Tim Means doesn't strike me as nearly as stupid, but also strikes me as slightly less dangerous. Connor?
So stupid yet dangerous is a great way of describing what it's like when I go into lab. But that being said, I actually disagree with you on this pick. First off, going with the theme of great nicknames all up and down this card, the Dirty Bird, Tim Means, great nickname. Especially for a dude who tested positive for steroids at one point in his career.
Extra dirty.
Yeah. And a dude who illegally kneed Alex Oliveira. And then when he was asked about it afterwards, was like, no, I very intentionally meant to knee him while he was grounded. That was the point of that. I wanted to damage him.
Ooh.
The Dirty Bird, man. I love that dude. That being said, Mike Perry versus Mickey Gall is not supposed to be a dude who's a striker. He's working with some pretty good striker. I don't remember who it is, but it's like pretty well-renowned kickboxer, pretty well-respected, but his striking does not look good. He picked Mike Perry pretty badly apart on the feet at multiple different points in the fight, which is not a great look, especially when your now pregnant girlfriend is the main person that's cornering you. I was really sad to see that Darren Till didn't get to be one of his cornermen for this fight. That the UFC, for those who don't know, Mike Perry put out a thing saying, like, if you pay me a certain amount of money, I will let you be my third cornerman. And it was going back and forth between Darren Till and a dude on Reddit. And it sounds like the Nevada State Athletic Commission was like, no, you can't pay people to be your cornerman. Like, we only accept bribes from the UFC and shit like that.
I'm not entirely convinced that his old friend isn't just the dude from Reddit.
I hope so.
I don't know if we'd ever be able to find out because they would try and keep it under wraps, but
probably mention it afterwards or something. But either way, Mike Perry's striking has not looked that great recently. The things that he has going in favor of him, he is insanely strong. Like, I like to think that Paul Felder is a pretty strong dude, at least as far as looking at him. And Mike Perry is just picking him up and slamming him, which is crazy. He's incredibly, incredibly strong. Whereas Tim Means, very technical striking. He's got dirty work in the clinch. No pun coming off the Dirty Bird nickname. But he has kind of slowed down recently. He's taken a few pretty bad losses. All in all, I think that Tim Means, even slowing down, has still beaten better fighters than Mike Perry has. I think the reason why Mike Perry has so many names on his list, so many names on the list of fighters that he's fought, are because the UFC saw him knock a dude out and were like, action fighter, he's going to get nothing but action fights. So between a dude who's not particularly great at striking and a dude who might be slowing down but still has those fundamentals in place, I'm just going to take Tim Means.
All right, what's the algo say?
The algo has Perry as a 57% favorite. And then, again, when I placed these initial bets, there was no value either way in the lines. And actually, while you guys were talking there, I took a look at Chikagian. And when I got her, she was a plus 180 underdog. She is now currently sitting at a plus 230. So either there's some kind of hype in the news that of why that's going on, or of why that she became more of an underdog, maybe an injury or something, or Vegas is just worried, or the book I'm using specifically is just worried they don't have enough to cover on either side, and they're trying to force people into putting money on Chikagian. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting.
One thing that always springs to mind is that, you know, the book and the values are affected by people betting, right? The more people that bet, will play. And recency bias is a big deal. And Chikagian just lost to Jessica Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
Got that relatively brutal body shot knockout. You know, she's able to return quickly because, you know, she didn't receive any brain trauma. And I guess they looked at her liver and said, okay, there's no permanent damage here. But like optically, if you're a fan watching that looks brutal. So maybe you feel like, oh, this girl's coming off a bad loss. She's not going to be able to win. But
yeah, just definitely interesting. I might capitalize on that value and put more down, depending on what the algorithm says, but just interesting.
All right, now, speaking of interesting odds, the women's flyweight championship is on the line. Valentina Bullet Shevchenko versus the third-ranked contender, Jennifer Maia. In short, if I had to describe Valentina Shevchenko, it's what if Black Widow was real? Valentina Shevchenko is a world champion shooter. She
cringe hard enough at that.
But am I wrong? Eastern European.
Oh, no, you're not wrong.
Okay, come on. I'm so right with this one.
I just said you're not wrong.
Oh, okay. You said you're not. Yeah, but like she's a terrifying fighter, a world champion shooter, right? She won her first Muay Thai kickboxing fight against like a 23-year-old at the age of 12. And she's looked untouchable in the flyweight division. Her only losses have been at 135, and her last 2 losses were both to Amanda Nunes, the greatest women's fighter in UFC history. So Valentina Shevchenko, I think, is going to destroy Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia has got good grappling, but I don't even want to harp on it for long because Valentina Shevchenko is probably going to kill her, and we need to get ready to prepare Jennifer Maia's funeral. The thing is, occasionally she'll turn out a boring fight here and there, but Shevchenko's looked seriously dangerous in her last few. I love Shevchenko, and the last I looked at the odds, and I know these aren't necessarily the same books you were looking at, Johnny. The last I saw the UFC posted DraftKings odds, she was a minus 1667 favorite. That means you would have to bet $1,667 on Shevchenko to pull $100. Connor, is there anything to add?
No, but I like hearing myself speak, so I'll say a few words. That's actually not true. I texted you after you sent me the video, and I was like, wow, I sound like a fucking nerd in this YouTube video.
Everyone, that's across the board.
But that being said, Valentina Shevchenko, amazing counterpuncher. Her strike, or like her counterpunching specifically of all of her striking, is excellent. Her grappling is incredibly, incredibly well done. She could outmuscle and handle fighters at 135. She's dropped down in weight and she fucking outmuscles everybody. I know that Joanna Jędrzejczyk was coming up from 115, but that fight legitimately looked like a 135 or fighting a 115, or she would throw her around like mad. Her grappling is great. Her wrestling is pretty good. Her counterpunching is excellent. Her reactions are incredibly dialed in. There are a lot of fighters who kind of figure out their opponent's timing over the course of the fight and then begin to land counterpunches. But Valentina Shevchenko is from the Jimmy Rivera and Conor McGregor school of counterpunching, where the second the fight starts, they are dialed in on exactly what you were going to do, and they make it look nasty. Juliana Pena is one of the better grapplers at 135, and she tried to clinch with Shevchenko before throwing a knee. It got caught. She got taken down and finished on the ground by Shevchenko. That was at 135. I don't really know what to expect being different. Like, if Jennifer Maia plods in, I don't think she has the best footwork. So if she's coming in, she's just going to eat counter punches. Maybe she can try to stall it out in the clinch for 25 minutes. But I don't think that she's going to be able to get much done in the clinch. And I don't think she's going to be able to get to the ground. So yeah, fuck it. Valentina Shevchenko all the way.
Obviously. All right. The only thing I could see here is that the algorithm sees the odds being so ridiculous that it throws some on Maia because there's so much money at stake here.
Yeah, so it has Jennifer Maia as like a 64% favorite. Or no. Valentina Shevchenko. Sorry. But which is I think that's low comparatively to like, and I'm curious as to why it thinks that. Dude, I cannot believe I said Jennifer Maia first. That would be.
Give me one moment. My cat is begging to be let out of my room. So.
All right. Well, I'll just tell you this.
Yeah, that's a surprisingly low favorite.
Yeah, I don't understand because. Like when you have, I mean, obviously it's not something a human's eyes can really, we can't really comprehend some of the decisions it makes, but from just a level of confusion because it has Joaquin Buckley as an 84% favorite over Jordan Wright, which I think is much closer of a competition than this, but it could only be because maybe in Jennifer Maia's last couple of fights, some of her statistics got padded from fighting nobodies, whereas Shevchenko is fighting has fights with Amanda Nunes under her belt that might not have been completely forgotten by the algorithm, which is maybe something that could be fixed for the future, maybe not. You don't want to jump to conclusions, but I think that's the only reason why Shevchenko can be only a 64% favorite. But yeah, I mean, when you get plus 1,000 odds and your algorithm and the model thinks there's a 36% chance that Maia could win, there's 100% value on that play, no matter who you are. So it is putting $1.39 to your $100 or 1.39% on Jennifer Maia for that delicious, delicious value. I don't think it's hitting. I think you're losing your money if you place this. However, it's an investment. It's long-term. You place these bets with the that you place the bets that give you the maximum value in the long run. You make money in the long run. It's more of an investment. So I am following it.
Yeah, the last I saw, with the DraftKings book, she was at plus 850. So if you dropped $100, you would win 850. So I think it's worth dropping a little bit of money just in case. It's not happening, but whatever.
Only because there is I mean, the only reason is because there's value displayed here, because obviously Shevchenko's the favorite. But what Vegas is doing is they know that no one's putting money, because they could see the stuff on Jennifer Maia. So if Valentina Shevchenko wins, they don't have enough to cover from the other side. So when they adjust lines like that, it's really trying to, and they do this purposely because Vegas makes the money by letting the loser cover the winner, and they take something called the VIG, which is the leftover. So what they're doing is they're forcing people to put money on Maya, in a sense, by making those look so good. But because there is still value, if you toss the correct amount of money towards the value, it's a risk to reward calculation. You're actually you're actually winning off of that, if that makes sense, in the long run, because you're not just throwing some arbitrary 100 to win all the money. You're throwing a calculated response depending on her probability. It's complicated, but in the long run, it actually yields profit. And if she wins, that'd be sweet.
Yeah. I think the only other thing that's really worth mentioning is that out of Jennifer Maia's last 3 fights, she's missed weight in 2 of them. She came in at 129 pounds versus Roxanne Modafferi, and came in at like 127.2 versus Caitlin Chukagian. She made weight for the Joanne Calderwood fight. That was the number 1 contender bout. But there's always a chance, you got 1 pound in non-title fights, you got a 1 pound allowance. She don't got that here. Maybe she'll miss weight. Maybe she'll be feeling it from the weight cut. It's just more things going in favor of someone incredibly disciplined like Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of which, what bad luck for JoJo Calderwood, because she was originally supposed to fight Valentina. Valentina gets injured, and JoJo, whose game is fuck, is like, fuck it, I'll just take a fight with Jennifer Maia. I'll secure my status as the number 1 contender. Gets armbarred.
Yeah. Rough. Absolutely rough. All right, from the flyweight title onto the flyweight title, because it's the men's flyweight title on the line. Champion Davison Figueiredo versus the 4th-ranked contender Alex Perez. And Alex Perez has a win over Jussier Formiga, the only guy in the UFC to beat Davison Figueiredo. He knocked out Jussier Formiga with leg kicks, which was sweet. But that being said, I think Alex Perez is good. I do not think he's good enough to beat Davison Figueiredo. Alex Perez got knocked out by Joseph Benavidez, and then we watched twice. Right. If you look at the way the referee handled the fight, Alex Perez within 1 fight kind of got knocked out twice by Joseph Benavidez. And then Joseph Benavidez got his shit kicked in by Davison Figueiredo twice. Davison Figueiredo, just carrying over the theme from the last fight we were discussing, has had some weight issues. He missed in his first flyweight title opportunity against Joseph Benavidez, made the second time. Apparently, he's on much better track this time. He's coming in a lot lighter than he usually does. So hopefully that all works, knock on wood. Davison Figueiredo is dangerous as hell, and I recently saw a statistic in terms of strikes per knockdown. Francis Ngannou throws 25 strikes per knockdown, and Davison Figueiredo at flyweight throws 31 strikes per knockdown. It's terrifying. Little dudes don't knock people out, but Davison Figueiredo knocks people out. And he'll do it again unless he knocks him down and then submits him. I got Davison Figueiredo here all the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that people have been calling Davison Figueiredo Yoelito, or Yoel, because they fight. They kind of look similar, but they have the exact same style of nothing is happening and all of a sudden you're dead. The dude is, for a flyweight, incredibly hard-hitting, incredibly strong. His counter-punching is very, very accurate. His striking defense is pretty good. And he is very comfortable with, if someone is crashing into the pocket against him, of just biting down on his mouthpiece and just swinging hard and knocking you out, usually knocking you out. Like, I don't know if you guys watched his fight with Alejandro Pantoja, but it was disgusting because every single time that Pantoja would come in, he would just throw back in response. and he did a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. Perez is really good. He has really nasty leg kicks that he started to show as a tool recently, as well as he still does hit pretty hard. I remember he has really good volume too against Jose Shorty Torres, and his only fight in the UFC, I think. He just threw an insane amount of volume, and just at the end just was overwhelming Torres with hard punches. All that being said, I think that Figueiredo is just a little bit better and kind of everywhere. Like the counter punching is really what's going to do it. If you're going to try and come in on him, you're going to eat hard punches in response. Maybe there's something there with the leg kicks, but Figueiredo's shown that he has good leg kicks too, and there's nothing wrong with kicking with a kicker. So yeah, I'm going to take Figueiredo. One thing that's interesting, Dylan mentioned that Figueiredo's missed weight recently. Alex Perez actually has a decent history of missing weight at flyweight as well. He hasn't done it in a while. He seems to have figured it out too, but like they both cut, or at least used to cut, a ton of weight going in. But this fight should be an absolute banger.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to jump in with, just because it's not particularly related to this fight, but I love to talk about it anytime I get the chance. You misremembered one thing. Shorty Torres has had 2 fights in the UFC. The other one being when he got slammed by Jared Brooks, but Jared Brooks dropped himself on his own head, knocking himself out. And then afterwards tweeted, 9 out of 10 times I beat you, 1 out of 10 times I knock myself out. The best trash talk in MMA history. Totally unrelated, but
he's just saying that 10% of the time that you fight someone, you knock yourself out. It's so bad.
It's a bad trash talk, if I were to say so.
All right, back on track though. What does the algorithm say for this fight?
So the algorithm has Figueiredo as a 71% favorite, with Vegas having him as a little more than that. Thus, no value on this fight, none even on the under, because we got Perez at a 29% favorite, or 29% chance of winning, which equates to around plus 242 if you're only familiar with American odds, and Vegas has him as like a plus 230 something around, so there's no value either way. So it's betting on no one. But I mean, I'd have to agree with you guys. Like after watching Figueiredo's last fight, he kind of seems like indestructible. Like I was really looking forward to Garbrandt cutting weight, even though I know he's kind of chinny himself. And Figueiredo, that's a great matchup for him, someone that's chinny, but I wanted to see it. I think Figueiredo is going to like completely run through Perez.
Yeah, I can't believe that this Shevchenko fight got the percentage probability it did, looking at the Figueiredo fight. But, yeah.
I really think it has to do with, the algorithm's not forgetful as of yet. I mean, we're working on a masterful one now that we like better, but you got to back test it. You got to forward test it. There's a lot that goes into deeming a model better. Especially because you're betting with it, you got to be really sure. You got to do all the testing necessary. But something about this one is it's not forgetful. So if Shevchenko got, beaten pretty poorly by Amanda Nunes twice, that does take a toll, and it will remember that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's not all that much more to say. This is a card that definitely has a lot of fun fights, but lacks in name value. So. Yeah. It's probably not going to get a lot of hype. Not a lot of casual fans are going to be tuning in, but
these are the best.
It's worth it though if you can find a way to watch it. I'm not going to advocate for anything particularly illegal here, but if you can find a way to watch it, it's worth it. This is going to be a fun night of fights, and I am looking forward to it. So, any last words, boys?
No, Jesus loves knockouts, man. Should be good.
All right.
I'll be in Perry's corner spiritually with Darren Till. So
yeah.
That's
okay. All right. So we will. Ooh, there goes Johnny. But I guess good timing, because that's the end. We'll reconvene after this weekend's fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. See you, man.